don't worry about SMMA, don't worry about growth operating, don't worry about anything like that. And it's the same thing in business. When you jump onto a sales call and you expect to close, you close way more. I think the traditional SMMA model is broken. And the reason why is like, listen, you can scale an SMMA to 50, 100K a month. If you put in the volume, if you have the sales, you got a little bit of marketing, like it's not that difficult. The biggest thing I think that separates the people that succeed and the people that don't, and I talk about this a lot, is that winners expect to win.
It's YouTube and people love to obviously hear the numbers first. So where are you currently at in terms of monthly revenues with all of these businesses?
Our main company, obviously it varies on a month to month, but we'll do anywhere between.
All right, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new, my name is Adi, and today we have a very special guest interview with Mr. Dylan Wilson. If you guys have an agency or have seen some SMMA related content, there's a good chance you guys have checked out some of his videos. But the great thing about Dylan is that unlike most gurus nowadays that make a lot of SMMA related content but don't actually have any agencies and they just provide a lot of information regardless, he's someone that actually provides an immense amount of value while actually running a successful agency. One that pulls in multi-six figures per month for that matter. So I'm truly excited for this episode and I know you guys are going to get a lot out of it. So without further ado, Dylan, I'll let you introduce yourself, man. Take us back a few years and walk us through your journey from starting out to actually creating something successful.
Yeah, for sure. So growing up, I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Lemonade stands. I actually started my first business when I was 12 years old and I sold fishing tackle over Instagram. Yeah. So I would make these lures and I sold some people and I remember like with my grandma going down to the post office one day to like ship out a box for like $150 and I was like, oh my God, I'm rich. And then I took hockey pretty seriously and I played hockey at a high level and I also kind of got made fun of for having a fishing business. So it was cooler to be the hockey player that I was. So I kind of put business on the back burner. And then as I got to my last year of school and what ended up being hockey, I realized that I hated school. I wasn't really enjoying hockey as much as I did and business is what I wanted to do. So for me, the logical next step, because of everybody was telling me, was I need to go to school to go to business. I need to go to school, I need to get my business degree, and then from there, I'll be able to, launch a successful business and be an entrepreneur. And then I remember getting there and like instantly thinking like, damn, I'm in the wrong spot. And about 6 weeks into my first semester at university, I was sitting there in this class and there's like 400 students. And for the first time, the teacher's like, hey, so today we're gonna talk about entrepreneurship and how to start a business. And I was like, oh my God, finally. Right? This is like week 6. Yeah. And the teacher starts by asking the entire class, and there's 400 students there, who wants to be an entrepreneur one day? And I like raise my hand, right? Well, I look around, and I'm the only one with my hand up in the air. And that moment was like, I am in the wrong spot. So that was one of the last classes that I attended. But at that time, I was making about $200 to $300 per month on Fiverr, video editing, people that would send me their GoPro footage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I didn't really have an agency, but I knew I wasn't going to school. Yeah. So I ended up leaving school at that point. And after saving up some money on Fiverr, I bought myself a camera. Then I just did outreach to local Facebook groups, just anybody that would be willing to hear me out. And I would say, hey, I'll come in and I'll make you some free videos and stuff like that. And eventually I got my first paying client, which was like $200 for this one video project. And I remember like being so nervous. I did that project, I added it to my portfolio, and fast forward about a year later, I had my first agency, which was Wilson Media, and it was basically a full service agency that was literally, I was a borderline glorified VA to like 200 companies, right? I had about 200 to 250 people in my Stripe by the time I began to move on. But most of it was like, hey, a video project here. Can you take photos for this here? Hey, I'm looking for a new website. And I would just say yes to anything. Yeah. And then what ended up happening was I just began to, build myself this terrible life where I had so many clients. Like one day I actually took time off to go on a boat with a couple of my buddies. I came back to 25 missed calls. Oh, wow. Not even mad clients. Like just like, hey, I want a quick revision with that website. Hey, how are the Google ads doing? Like, hey, when can we launch that new Facebook? Like just random stuff. And I was running around with the chicken with my head cut off. And then at that point, I read the book, $100 Million Offers. And that was when I was like, oh my God, I need to do one niche with one offer, and that's where I'm going to run it. And so at that point, I ended up putting a lot of those projects onto the back burner. I started a gym agency. We scaled that up, had some pretty good success with that. While I was kind of running that, just accidentally, I kind of started like a bit of a consulting company. And then I had some really good success with that, but I don't really care about my success. The most thing that I'm proud about is just the sheer volume of people that we were able to help get their first client, help hit their first 10K a month, really just by showing them what I was doing in my own agencies that I was running at the time. And then from there, we ended up kind of transitioning into what we do today. Also kind of in this same period, I launched a mortgage agency. We took, grew that pretty quickly. I documented it on social media and like my YouTube as well. But then we kind of created this hybrid model where essentially we're an agency that provides a lot of done-for-you services for the people that we'll bring on. But then also with the background and experience that we have, there is a good amount of that consulting to it. So it's kind of like a hybrid between a consulting and an agency. And our whole model is that we'll work with people for a 90 to 180 day period. We take our best clients and we gain equity in their company as well to build a bit of a portfolio on the back end.
Okay. So you mentioned a few different things there, and I want to get into those individually as well.
Yeah.
But it's YouTube, and people have to obviously hear the numbers first. So where are you currently at in terms of monthly revenues with all of these businesses?
Our main company, obviously it varies on a month to month, but we'll do anywhere between 150 and 200K with our main company. We also have a couple portfolio companies. One of them will do about $5 to $10 million per year. It's a very high ticket product, whole different space, whole different sales process, everything. The two other companies that we have and that we're kind of working with are in and around the 20 to 50, 60K per month mark. The first agency, which was Wilson Media, that took me 2 years to get to 25K a month. The second gym agency took me 5 weeks to get to 25K a month. And then the mortgage agency, we went from 0 to 36K in about 7 weeks. And that was the one where I documented like everything that I did on my YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen those, because you mentioned it was like Wilson Media, Outwork Media, and then the mortgage AI.
Yeah.
And then the coaching business. And then,
Yeah, I guess in the coaching business, we took to about 50, 60. I think our peak month was like a bit over 70.
Yeah, and you've been in the online business space for what, about 5, 6 years now?
Yeah, I think I was 18. So yeah, this is year 6, I think it is for me.
Wow. And I also saw that you attempted drop shipping before even starting SMMA.
Yeah, I had a bit of a drop shipping span, and it was like I sold like summer products and random stuff, but I made about $3 or $4 grand a month, and it cost me about $3 or $4 grand a month to run those companies. So
yeah, and then in terms of starting those different agencies, because that's where you got your start in the SMMA space. Wilson Media working with, or was Wilson the one where you were working with gyms?
Anybody. No, Wilson Media was like anybody who's willing to pay me, I will work for you.
Gotcha. And then after that, you went into Outwork Media?
Yeah.
And then that was working with gyms?
Yeah, that was just gyms, yeah.
So what was the process with getting these agencies started? Because I feel like a lot of people watching these videos are going to be still at that stage where they're in the beginning stages of getting their agency up and running. They might be working with these niches like gyms, med spas, chiro, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So walk us through your journey with those.
Yeah, so Wilson Media was different. Like, I was already doing about 10 to 15K a month before I knew what SMMA was. Like, I didn't follow any gurus. I think I probably knew of Iman, but like I didn't watch his video. Like, I didn't watch YouTube. I didn't do any of that. I just like used Google, right? Like ChatGPT wasn't even a thing then. And so for me, it was like, I'd always had YouTube channels. I know how to make videos, and I really don't want to go to school. So I'm going to make videos for people. Then they like asked me, can you do photos too? I was like, sure. Then they would like ask me, can you build a website? And I'd be like, yes. And I would go home and I would Google, how do I build a website? Right? Nice. And I just kind of learned how to do all the different aspects of growing the company marketing just by saying yes to literally everything with that first company. Now, I learned a lot, but it was a terrible type of business to run because there was no systems. It was me and like 6 other people who were just like, did what I told them to do. No, and it was like, a bit of a mess. Outwork Media was cold DMs and cold email tackled up with looms. So what I discovered in the gym space is that all of the gyms that I was reaching out, they had the same offer, right? $80 an hour, $100 an hour, $99 a month, whatever the case may be, for either group classes or personal training, right? But the problem is that they fall into a trap of what I called the 3 C's, and this is what I would send in every loom I would make. I was like, listen, like, people are only going to choose your gym for one of the 3Cs, right? If they're connected to you, right? If you know them or they were referred, which is great, but you can't control that. If it's convenient, which means like your gym just so happens to be close to where they live or where they go to school, or if you're the cheapest option. Right? But if you're relying on connections, convenience of the location, which you can't change, or being the cheapest option, like that's a terrible way to attract new customers.
Yeah.
But there's a fourth option, which is called what I called at the time a championship offer, right? And like, let's look at your, your personal training package. Do you do nutrition for that? Yes. Okay. What would you charge if I just wanted nutrition? Well, that would be $50. Okay. Do you hold your members accountable? Yes. If I just wanted the accountability, what would that charge? $50. And I would I would pull away each individual aspect, and then I would create these offers, and I would just basically demonstrate the actual value that they were providing to be able to turn their, $100 an hour personal training session into like a $1,000, $2,000 offer without actually changing anything about the service, just how it was positioned. And then I would send them a Loom, like breaking this down on their website. And then they'd be like, oh shit. Then I would hop on a call with them, and then I would just do it for them, and they would be like, okay, well, like, how do I get traffic? Like, okay, now that I make this offer, like, how do we get more customers? I'd be like, well, glad you asked. And then I would schedule what I would do is I'd be like, well, actually, I get a call right now, so I can't have that conversation, but what I can do is we can schedule another time tomorrow. I didn't have a call coming up, but I wanted to do 2 calls because in between the first call and the second call, I would send them case studies. I would send them my story, and I would send them additional assets to really warm them up. So when I hopped on that second call, they've already been sold on this new opportunity, this new idea that they haven't tried before. They've seen my case studies. I pulled away from them, so now I had the authority on that second call, and it was an easy close.
Wow, I haven't even heard of that before.
Yeah.
That's like an intentional 2-call close. A lot of the time people try to just do one, but then I guess you were making it like intentional, right? You just wanted that kind of that power dynamic and everything.
For sure, and that was why. And that was how we had the success as quickly as we did in the gym space.
Oh, okay. And then with that gym agency, how long did it take you to hit that 10K per month milestone when you first got started?
Like a week or 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Within a week or 2, you were at 10K?
I had a 5K upfront offer.
Okay, gotcha. So you were charging these gyms 5K?
Yeah.
Month? Oh, wow.
It was 5K plus $100 per show.
Okay, gotcha. And that included, what was the full list of services that was under that 5K?
So it started with the offer, right? Because with most businesses, the highest leverage point is the offer. Like the clients that we do today, it's like whenever we bring somebody on, doesn't matter what they're in, like I personally will jump on a call with them for an hour and like build out their offer for them because it's the highest leverage point in the company, right? If you have a really good offer that really speaks to people's dream outcome, right? You can have okay marketing and still make money. You can kind of be good at, like you can be okay at sales and you can still make money, right? But if you have a shit offer, then you have to be really good at sales, you have to be really good at marketing, you have to, and it becomes a lot harder to get things going. So the first thing that I would do is I would create those offers for them. Then it was just simple Facebook ads. And it was just like this simple creative. It was like literally just white with like Times New Roman font, the classic font, looking for 20 women in location, 6-week fitness program, 6-week transformation challenge.
Right.
Then in the beginning, we had the gyms call, and then they sucked at calling. So then we had a team started calling up, basically setting the appointments, and then closing them too.
Okay. So are you able to give an example of the offer for that one gym? Just because I want people to understand watching, because the standard retainers that people are probably doing are around 2 to 3K. Maybe people watching this video.
Yeah.
But you're here a couple of years ago charging $5,000, and then on top of that charging per show. So
yeah, so it was basically $5,000 up front to come in and build the systems. And the offer was simple. It's like, pay me one time and never pay me again. Okay. I'll become your in-house team. We'll run your ads for free. We'll work your leads for free. Only pay me after somebody shows up to the gym. Right? So it was the way that we were able to position it was pretty, good too. But yeah, it was 5K up front plus $100 per show. And then if they weren't profitable after 90 days, we'd refund them the difference. Okay.
And a big thing that I also want to understand is your mindset. Because going through your Instagram, your YouTube, we were just talking about this right now. You've documented a decent bit, especially on Instagram. I was going through some of your videos, and you're pretty much showing the whole process of waking up super early, around 5 a.m., working 12 plus hours every single day, pushing yourself to the extreme, running that 100 km that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And, instantly it's kind of clear to me that you have a very strong work ethic. And I'd love to just hear more about your mindset, and especially when you were just starting out, and also how it's evolved over time. for today, pretty much?
Yeah, so I was actually talking about this earlier today with some people that we're working with right now. And you know the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything?
Yeah.
I disagree.
Really?
Like if you walk into my bedroom right now, my bed's a mess. Unless the housekeeper did it. Maybe the housekeeper changed it. But like, I don't make my bed.
Yeah.
Right? Like half the time I'm too lazy to like brush my teeth like when I go to bed or something. I'll brush it in the morning. And it's like, even like when I was still in high school and I lived at home, my mom used to have to wake me up like 3 or 4 times at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning just to make it to school on time. But then in the last year of high school, when it began to click about, hey, I want to start a business, and I became inspired, I was waking up at 4 a.m. so I could work for those 4 hours before going to school, trying to start a dropshipping store.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the biggest thing I think that separates the people that succeed and the people that don't, and I talk about this a lot, is that winners expect to win. And the real life example that I like to share with this is I occasionally golf.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people, sometimes it's not as popular of a sport, so maybe some people will get this, and if you don't, I'll explain it so you can understand it. But when I golf with my high school buddies, now I probably golf with them 100 times, maybe I've lost twice. Yeah. I'm like slightly better than them, but they suck under pressure. So usually I'll be able to hit one shot and like just win on the last hole or something. Yeah. I will shoot like low 80s, but every single time I go to play against them, I expect to win. Now I'm also a member of a country club too. And there I golf with some really good golfers that are much better than me. And I rarely win. And admittedly, I show up and I don't expect to win. Now, my average score at the country club is like high 80s, 90s. So I take 10 strokes off my game. I'm on average 12 to 15% of a better golfer just by expecting to win. And it's the same thing in business. When you jump onto a sales call and you expect to close, you close way more. When you're making a cold call or when you're calling an opt-in lead and you expect to set the appointment, you usually set the appointment.
Yeah. Sure.
Right? And so what I like to do and what I kind of, I don't like talking about mindset a lot because I think a big thing is like, if you are looking for like watching videos on like how to change your mindset, like that's your first problem. But a big thing that I'll say is like, do something that gives you undeniable proof that you should expect to win. Right? So it's like, if you want to expect to be able to set an appointment when you cold call, like just lock yourself in a room, do 2,000 to 3,000 dials until you've set 100 to 200 appointments. Once you've done that, every time you make a cold call, you'll expect to set the appointment because you've set so many in the past.
Right. No, that makes sense. So pretty much getting a track record rather than trying to fix something.
Like force the success.
Yeah, I love that.
Like just do so much volume to like force the success. Right? Like even with like the running example. The only way that I now have the confidence, like I haven't ran for however long, like I run like maybe 5K a week now, but if you asked me to go do a marathon this weekend,
you'll do it.
I would do it and I would have full confidence that I would complete it.
Yeah.
Only because of the undeniable track record that I set by completing that 100K.
I love that. No, that's a very good way to think. Because you're right, that's a big thing that a lot of people nowadays are just kind of looking for, it's to change something. Yeah. Instead of just getting started and going into the trenches. And honestly, transparently speaking, that's how I was too before. Yeah. I bought Iman's course when, I don't know, have you bought his course or no?
No, I never did. Okay. I didn't even know, like I remember I was already making like 15-ish K a month before I even knew what SMMA was.
Right, okay, so you were kind of there. So for me, like I bought this course thinking, okay, my life's about to change. I just spent, I don't know, 1,500 maybe. Yeah. And things are just gonna change magically. Yeah. But it wasn't related to how much I spent or what it was like that, right? It was just about me getting into it. Yeah. And I think that's also another thing, because I get DMs nowadays all the time that people are like, oh, how can I get this result? It's like, you're asking how to get the result, but you're not actually doing, what it takes. So I guess that's what you're also saying. Yeah,
and I mean, like, I've always taken a very logical approach to business, right? It's like, okay, I want to make 25K a month. And I actually had a video that kind of went viral by just like breaking this down like so simply and so logically, and people were like, oh my God. Yeah. It's like, okay, I want to make 25K a month. Okay, let's say I charge 5K, so I need to close 5 clients. Okay, what's my closing percentage? 10%. right? Okay, so I need 50 calls. Okay, what's my show rate? 60%. So I forget the calculation, but okay, I need to book about 70 to 80 calls. Okay, what's my cold call to set rate? 5%. Let's say I need to book 100 calls because we have a 50% show rate. Okay, so I need to do 2,000 dials. I think that math is right. So if I do 2,000 dials, I'll book 100 appointments. 50 of them will show. If I close at 10%, I'll close 5 people. I'll make $5,000.
Yeah.
And like that's how I approach everything.
Yeah.
Right? Start with the end result and then just reverse engineer the math. And then figure out what the top of funnel input is, and then just build systems to be able to achieve that input. Right? Because most of the people are like, I want to make 10K a month, but then it's like you're sending 30 DMs a day. Like the math doesn't add up.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to figure out like if you're sending key emails or DMs or cold calls, like you have to do the math to make it add up. Otherwise, you're never going to hit your goal.
Yeah, no, very true. So when you first got started, was cold calling one of the things that you were doing primarily?
No.
Or no, you were sticking to the other?
No, I did DM. I also did like, I've always had a social media presence. So even with that first business, like I have like 2,000 or 3,000 followers on LinkedIn. And then I also had an agency account back then that had about I think it's still active. I haven't posted on it in years. I also had like 2,000 or 3,000 followers and I just posted value. Hey, here's how I helped this local landscaping company grow. And every single person that followed me, whether it be on LinkedIn or Instagram, I would DM them.
Okay.
Not to pitch them,
Yeah.
just to help them out. Like I would DM them and I would send them a loom about their website and stuff like that. And I began to build a network and I began to be perceived as like a local authority, which ultimately led to actually that award that you can see over there where I was recognized as, top young entrepreneur under 40 in my kind of region and whatnot as well. But really the only reason I got that award was because like, I remember like on that night, like everybody knew who I was.
Wow.
Right. And I was like some young, like 19, 20-year-old kid in a room full of like 100, 200, like 40, 30, 40, 50-year-old business people. Right. But everybody had either connected with me on LinkedIn, they followed me on Instagram, they've seen my post because I was just there every single day.
Right. Gotcha. That's amazing. So let's say there's someone watching this. They might know a little bit about SMMA. They want to hit that golden figure of $10,000 per month, right? So what advice would you give to them to actually reach that? I know you were talking about just like the inputs and the outputs, but nowadays, right, there's a billion different business models, whether it's growth operating, IPGA, they're all a branch of, I guess, one business model. And it's pretty easy to get confused. So what roadmap would you give to that one person?
So don't worry about SMMA, don't worry about growth operating, don't worry about anything like that. And I talk about this on some of the free community calls that I do. Pick an industry that you know. Maybe you have family there, maybe you used to work in that industry, whatever that case may be. Then do research into that industry to discover a problem that industry is currently facing. Figure out how to solve that problem, like learn the skill to figure out how to solve that problem, productize that process, and then just sell that, right? Like a lot of the guys that we're bringing in and we're starting to work with, they're actually building, in a way, recruitment offers. Right, because let's look at the home improvement space, for example. Right, a lot of the guys are going into the home improvement space and they're like, hey, I'll help you get more leads. And it's like, fuck, the guy doesn't care about leads. Right? The problem with a lot of the home improvement guys is they started as a contractor. They're making like $50 an hour, but they had their boss that was yelling at them. They hated their boss, so like, screw this, I'm leaving. I'm going to start my own company. Now they're sitting here 5 years later, dealing with a bunch of deadbeat employees, making less money than they were originally making. And it sucks.
Yeah.
Right? So all they want is some employees that don't smoke cigarettes on the customer's balcony and show up to work on time. Right? So what we're doing is we're learning how to, like what my clients are doing is learning how to solve the problem of how to hire, train, and recruit top talent in like a custom cabinetry business or in a random home improvement business. And then we're like, hey, then our offers are like, hey, we'll make your home improvement business run without you.
Okay.
Because that's what they want.
Yeah.
Right? We're not selling leads because Iman told you has to sell leads. We're figuring out what problems our customers have and then solving those. And typically we'll do it in two stages where it's like, hey, we'll help you, we'll remove yourself from the business or remove yourself from the job site, and then we'll fill up your new team with work. Right? So it's typically like a bit of coaching and consulting / system installation on the front end, and then agency services on the back end, which is a lot of what we do too. Right? We start with a lot of, consulting, coaching, make sure your business actually runs right. Once we have the foundations in place, we have your VSL set up, we have your offer right, then we'll do cold email for you to get a whole bunch of appointments on your calendar and, begin to scale it up from there.
Okay, so it's essentially finding the industry, figuring out the problems, and then kind of figuring out what services could fix that problem.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you're 20 hours away from being able to solve like 90% of people's problems.
Yeah.
Like one of the guys that came on, and I had my offer call with him yesterday, and he's in the home improvement space, and he's like, oh, well, Dylan, like I don't know how to hire, like I don't know how to do that. Well, then I explained to him in 8 minutes how to hire, recruit, and train top talent. And he's like, his dad actually ran a home improvement company. I'm like, does your dad do anything that I just said? And he's like, no. Every once in a while, he'll post a job in Indeed. And I'm like, well, this is why your dad's struggling with that.
Yeah.
Right? So the information that I just gave you in the last 8 minutes, you can create systems around that. You can give that to home improvement companies, and you can completely change their life. Right? And he was able to figure that out in 8 minutes because I was on a call with him. But if he didn't have me there, in 20 to 30 hours of YouTube and research, he would have been able to figure out how to hire, train, and recruit top talent into a home improvement company.
Right. I like that. I really like it because, nowadays, every different business model, and there seems like there's a billion of them. Everybody's just like, go to a different company, just offer them these services. But I haven't heard anybody say that you should just look at the industry and then figure out the problems and then integrate yourself. I haven't heard that before, genuinely. So it's nice. And then, okay, so let's say somebody does figure out the industry, they figure out the problems. Service delivery, right? That's a pretty big fear that people have nowadays. That's the sirens. So let's say, service delivery, they don't know how to run ads, and they do end up like signing their first client.
Yeah.
And then after that, they sign their first client and they have to get all the work done, but now they're freaking out about the service delivery, right? Yeah. They don't actually know the funnels, the VSLs, the back-end systems, the actual ads. So what would you say to that one person to, how should they go about figuring out all of that? And
yeah, if you were running ads, for example, like funnel hack ads that are already performing in the space, and there's 80% of the work right there.
Yeah.
Like go onto Facebook Ad Library, go onto Google Ads Transparency Center if you're using Google Ads or Facebook Ads, right? Look at ads that have been running for an extended period of time. If they have a decent amount of spend behind them, well, they're probably profitable ads because these are local businesses. These aren't Coca-Cola that just spend ads for the sake of spending ads. They spend ads to make money. Okay, well, there's probably a winning ad. Take that, don't copy it, modify it, change it a little bit, but like right there, that's a good starting point. Right? And then from there, you just want to look at the key metrics, right? Click-through rate all. If that's below 2%, you probably have a creative issue because people aren't even stopping. Link click-through rate, meaning like, are people actually clicking on the link to go to the lead form or the landing page? If that's below 1%, the headline or the offer isn't really compelling to actually make people want to click, right? If your form conversion rate is below 10%, people are getting bait and switched, right? If you have a good link click-through rate, a lot of people are clicking on the form, but then they're not converting once they're on the form. It's because they clicked on the form, and then when they landed on the form, they saw something different. So a lot of the time, all we have to do is just make sure that our landing page or our form is congruent with what the ad is saying. And the other thing is like offering them a reason to actually click and take action on the ad. Like click here for a quote nobody cares about. Click here for a $500 gift card that you can redeem anytime in the next 12 months, but you have to opt in today to claim it. Now you have a reason to opt into the form.
Yeah. So I guess it just goes back to the offer.
Yeah. Again, with every business, the offer is usually the biggest lever to pull.
Yeah. Gotcha. And even with your current company that you said that's the main focus, like that's one thing.
Yeah, like when we, like for the people that we work with, right? Like obviously we put in an extended amount of time into our own offer, right? But for the people that we work with, like I personally block out, an hour plus to sit on their one-on-one. And like a lot of the times I won't even let them speak. I'm like, they'll be like, no. Like obviously I'll listen to their input, but I'm like, I built hundreds of offers. Like this is your first company. And I'll just like sit there. They'll sit there like quiet and they'll just watch me like type. And I'm just like, I'll spend like so much time because that's like the biggest lever. And I also want to make sure that I have a huge part to do with that because I don't want to like, they could be less experienced, whatever that case may be. Like I want to make sure the offer gets done right because it's the biggest leverage point in the company.
Gotcha. I love that. And moving towards the whole coaching side of your business.
Yeah.
Relentless Success Club. Is that something you're still running, or
No.
is that no? It's
No.
shut down for now. So, but I still want to get into that because that's obviously still a big thing and a big part of your journey.
Yeah.
So, when did you reach a point where with your agency where you're like, okay, I've put together a system that actually works, and I know I could pretty much plug that into somebody else's agency and get them the same results.
Yeah.
Especially because nowadays it seems like a majority of these SMMA guys, they skip to the coaching part without actually getting into the trenches.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually left the coaching part because I hated it and I missed the game. So I went back, fully into the agency game because that's a lot more fun than actually just sitting there, telling people to stop jerking off. But I didn't ever have that realization because it was literally an accident.
Okay.
Like, I had the things that I was working on, and I started to post a little bit of content, just kind of document what I was doing. And then to my surprise, people started reaching out to me, we're like, can you help? And then what I ended up doing is I started to work with a couple guys, here and there. I was charging $500 a month, not even, just for one-on-one. And then what I did was I put together a little group. After I had 4 or 5 of these guys, I put together a little group. And I was like, okay, on Wednesday afternoons at this time, everybody, and we'll jump into it was a little mastermind. And then people started to continue reaching out. And then I remember I had one guy, he reached out to me and I was like, honestly, I'm pretty full right now. I don't really want to do that. And I wasn't charging that lot. So I didn't it's kind of just a hobby. And I was like, but I do have this mastermind that you come to. And he's like, well, how much? And I was like, oh, it's $500 a month. And they just he's like, sure, send me the Stripe link. I was like, oh. It's like, whoa. And then that was really just the snowball.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, I was like, at that point, I hadn't built the company that I built today. Right. So today I can very confidently say that if you fully implement what we do, your company will be at 50 to 100K a month in the next 12 months. Right. Maybe 2 years, maybe 6 months. We've taken 3 companies past $100,000 a month in the last, and we did all of them within a 90-day time period in the last 12 months. Right. So I'm very confident in that. But at that time I wasn't there. So the whole thing that I focused on was I will help you get your first client. And I built this program called the First Client Challenge. And it was just a step-by-step. It was how to set up your outreach profile and all that kind of stuff. And I just solely focused on helping people get their first client. Wow. And that was the main thing. Okay. Right? Because the thing is one of the things that is very important and has always been very important to me, it's I only want to teach somebody something if I consider it easy. And at that point, at a $20,000, $30,000 a month agency, getting the first client was super easy. So that was what I focused on. Right. And I didn't move on to helping people to scale to 6 and 7 figures until I was, much beyond that myself.
Right. So is coaching still something that's part of your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge part of it. With that offer creation, with we host a daily mastermind call as well. It definitely, and it's also probably the biggest lever to pull because it's our cold email systems are great, but that's giving a man a fish. Teach a man to fish, feed him for life. Yeah. So definitely is a big aspect of what we still do to this day. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And now I want to get into your current venture, Catalyst Holdings. And watching some of your videos, you mentioned it's a bit of pretty much a different model than SMMA. And you mentioned it's a marketing holdco where people are able to earn high retainers by still doing some of the same type of work. So explain a bit more about this concept and why you think it's better than the traditional SMMA model.
Yeah, so I think the traditional SMMA model is broken. And the reason why is listen, you can scale an SMMA to 50, 100K a month. If you put in the volume, if you have the sales, you got a little bit of marketing, it's not that difficult. I understand that may be controversial, but once you've done it, you're okay, that actually wasn't that difficult. The problem is that around that 100K a month mark, it becomes incredibly, that's when SMMAs typically begin to break. Right? Because at that point, you have 50-ish clients, let's say you're charging 2K a month, right? And it's okay, how do I take this to 500K a month? Well, I'm going to have to triple my ad spend, and I better hope my ad account doesn't get shut down. I'm going to have to build out a huge team of closers, huge team of setters. I'm going to have this huge service delivery team. And then it becomes this logistical nightmare. And then you see these agencies that are making $200-300K a month with 20% profit margins. You're well, that sucks. Yeah. Right? So what we will do is we'll build the front end of our company to anywhere between that 50, around that 100-ish K a month mark. But then what we'll do is we'll structure our deals in the sense where it'll be like a one-time fee for a 3-month engagement. And then once we've made back X amount of money for our client, then it'll be like a performance that will kick in. Now the thing is ideally our incentivization is to stack that performance fee as much as possible. And this is what we actually did with one of our biggest portfolio companies today, Nomad Microhomes. So we started with them with just a straight up, it was like a 5K setup and then like 15% performance. Well, fast forward a few months later, we took that company from 20K a month to over $500,000 a month, and our company was taking home $60,000 in performance fees.
Wow.
Now what happened is because that company had investors, because it's a bit of a unique product, the investors went to them and were like, why are you paying this agency $60,000 a month? We need to bring this in-house. So we're like, sure, we'll come in-house. We got equity in the company and we dropped a performance fee and we just owned, a portion of that company, right? Now the thing is like with the agency model, if I was to get hit with a bus, the agency's dead. Agencies don't have that much of a valuation because it's typically founder-led. Typically, it's a lot of the founder's face and or the founder's knowledge and all that kind of stuff. If the founder was to leave and an outside investor was to buy it, the agency wouldn't be worth that much. Yes, I understand if you have like 12-month contracts and like you can try and contract screw the people that you're working with, but like you maximum maybe get a 2-3x multiple.
Yeah.
Right? But what we do is we don't ever actually sell the agency. The agency simply becomes a breeding ground to where we can get equity in our most successful clients. And then what we can do is you can acquire equity in multiple businesses and whatnot. Then you can either sell the equity in those individual businesses to make that big paycheck, or if you have people in the same niche, right? Like if you have 3 or 4 HVAC companies, for example, you can sell all of them at the same time and you can actually get a premium on it, right? Because let's say easy numbers, each one's worth $1 million. Well, if you sell each one for $1 million, you would get $4 million. But if you sell them all at the same time, investors will pay a premium because it diversifies the risk in what's called a roll-up, and you can actually get 5 to 6 if you sell them all at once. Mm-hmm. So we don't ever sell the agency. The agency just becomes like an acquisition machine to be able to provide great results on the front end and and partner up with our most successful clients in an equity basis. You keep them for a couple of years and then you sell them, or you just continue to hold that.
Right. Okay. And before I had a question here that said, there's higher retainers, but what exactly allows for that? But as you're talking, I think I understand it. It primarily goes back to the offers and then pretty much just how you leverage, how you pretty much integrate yourself into the company and how you leverage everything. So was the Nomad Homes, was that the first company that you worked with for this business model, or? Yeah,
on this business model, yeah. And that's how we discovered it.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, so you started working with them, you got all these results, and then you pretty much positioned
because
everything.
we were like, it's like we own a good percentage, like we own a nice percentage of this company, right? That company is worth a good, like it does about, I think it did about $7 million last year.
Wow.
Right? And it's also like a product. Most people that buy it don't even know who the founder is. Right? So now the actual valuation of our agency is like 4 or 5 times what it would have been if it was just the agency and we didn't have equity in that company.
Right. And how many clients do you guys currently have?
I think we have like 60 or 70 active.
Oh, within Catalyst Holdings?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. And the next question I have here is related to your YouTube stuff, because once again, you're pretty active. You're posting a few times a week. And as we were talking about earlier, it's not just mindset stuff where you're looking into the camera and talking. And you're actually using slide decks in most of your videos, extensively explaining certain concepts. So how do you think the whole, posting YouTube videos, how do you think that's helped your agency journey and your overall business in general? I
only post YouTube videos to make money.
Fair enough.
Like I post YouTube videos to, yes, 99% of people that watch my channel aren't qualified and will never work with us. But I post YouTube videos to attract that 1 to 2% to be like, oh shit, these guys know their stuff and they want to work with our company.
Right.
That's the only reason I do it. And I don't think Catalyst would be anywhere near where it is today without that. Because it's even like we're running ads, for example, right? People, they see an ad and then they opt in and then they see me on YouTube and then like 2 months go by and then they work with us, right? If that YouTube didn't exist, maybe they never work with us.
Right. It's like you're pretty much warming up all the leads.
Yeah. It's like free retargeting And that's the other thing too. And I know we were talking about this earlier, but like I've gone through and I've SEO optimized like all my old videos.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So even videos that I uploaded like a year ago, they're still getting like a couple hundred views per month. It doesn't cost me $1.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. And before we end off here, I'm gonna borrow a page from your playbook and hit you with the question that you always ask at the start of your interviews. What's the craziest story that's happening in the past 3 months or even the past year?
Craziest story.
Yeah.
Oh, I got some wild story. Like the other thing you have to understand is I'm living in an apartment with 5 other guys. Well, between a couple different units here,
Yeah.
all of which are 22, 23 years old and have way too much money for their age.
So you gotta give us the stories.
There's a couple. I'm just trying to think of the one.
Yeah, you could give us a few.
I mean, let me give me a second to think
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
take your time. That must be a really good story then.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been some fuck things that have happened. Like, one guy was trying to like have sex with like Noah while he was like running on the beach because there's like a gay guy there. Like, just some crazy things have like happened here recently.
Am I allowed to put this in the video?
You can if you want.
I'll do it. Oh, that's hilarious.
I mean,
I don't even know what that meant. Like, you guy was out trying to have sex with your...
okay, yeah, long story short, my roommate was running down the beach and he had his shirt off. And I'm like downtown in the city and there's a lot of gay people here.
Yeah.
So one thing that's a little bit of a
Vancouver.
culture change from where I grew up.
Yeah.
And eventually just got to his run and like the guy came up to him and asked him if he had a girlfriend. And he's like, yeah, I do. And she's like, and he's essentially was like, well, I can bet you I could suck your dick better than she can.
What the fuck?
It's like, what is going on right now?
Oh my god, the city's whack.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a good story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's actually this is a funny one. This is like the most recent one. This was like a week ago or so. So this one's still kind of fresh. So my business partner, he drives a car, which is it's an expensive vehicle. It's like this Audi R8.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about cars. I drive a truck. I'm not a car guy. And he was coming back from a little vacation and he pops the tire on the way back. And so he's like, shit, right? So he has to travel for like 2 hours home on like this pop tire. It's a gong show, but he finally gets home and then he takes it into Audi the next day. 2 days go by and then I go to and then he's like, it's time to go pick it up. So another guy who I've done some content with named Zach, my business partner, and I'm like, I had nothing to do. It was like 6 p.m. and we were going up for dinner after. And I was like, okay, I'll come with you just for whatever, just for a little something to do. So then we get to the Audi dealership and we're in this like Porsche because the other buddy drives like this Porsche. And then it's like, I have to get out of the car to let Noah out of the back. And then he goes into the Audi dealership. And then I get back in the Porsche and Zach like goes to reach for his phone and accidentally grabs the spare Audi key.
Oh.
And then I look at it and I'm like, I have an idea. Yeah. So then I grab the Audi key. And then once Noah goes inside, I run down the street, get in the Audi and rip down the street.
What did you do after that?
So then like 2 minutes go by and then the Audi guy is like, okay, well, let's go get your car. And then they walk out and it's not there.
Yeah, oh my god.
And then they go in the service.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, could whoever in the service department that just took the Audi, could you please bring it back out to the front? And they're like, sir, we don't have an Audi. And then their face just drops.
Oh
and then all of a sudden, instantly, there's like 15 guys in these bright red Audi suits, sprinting out the front door, running up and down the street, looking for the stolen Audi.
Oh my god.
About 5 minutes go by, and I rip down the side street. And they all see me, they just turn their head, and they start sprinting down the street like they're gonna catch an Audi R8.
Oh my god.
And the funny thing is too, is when we ripped down the side street, like Noah, he saw the Porsche go, and then he saw the Audi go, so Noah was like, okay, I figured out what happened. Like,
so he wasn't worried.
No, at that point, Noah wasn't worried anymore. Yeah. But then these guys are just like sprinting up and down the street chasing me, and then like about 15 minutes go by. Like we really milked this. About 15 minutes go by, I finally come back, and they are livid at me.
Really?
They were so mad.
What did they say?
They're like, these fucking kids, like so irresponsible. Like you don't know how serious this is. Like they were mad. And then, so now like not that I would ever go to Audi to buy something, But if I ever do go back to Audi, I'm expecting to see, like, you know, when you go into like those corner stores,
Yeah.
and you'll see like the black and white photo of like somebody who
Yeah,
came in
yeah,
there and
yeah, yeah.
stole a bunch of stuff with like thieves written over it.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's
so
gonna
I'm
be you.
expecting to see my picture up
man.
behind the front desk in
You
Audi.
just gotta buy a different car. But yeah, man, that's the wrap on the video, and I appreciate you taking the time to get this going.
It was a pleasure. I had a good time.
Yeah, it was great to just sit down and pick your brain for a bit because, you know, once again, I'm still working on scaling my own agency, and a lot of the information and value that you provided directly applies to me. So not just the people watching. So I'm definitely glad we did this. And for everyone watching, make sure you guys check out Dylan's channel and his Instagram. Everything's going to be linked below. But with that being said, do you have any last words, man, that you want to leave the audience with?
Winners expect to win.
Winners expect to win. I love that.